News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Joining us now in studio, we have State Representative Dan Sullivan is back with us. Dan, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Always good to be in.
Yes, sir. It's always good to have you. So, first of all, we got a bunch to talk about, but let's talk about what you did last night. The Friends of the NRA banquet was going on. How did that go?
That went great. They had about 300 people through the rain and the bad weather. It's kind of flooded out there in our area a little bit.
And the politicized issue right now over guns.
Yeah, true. But it had a great night last night. I was able to distribute a number of "In God We Trust" posters. You can't campaign at a rally like that. But this, again, was not campaigning. It's just sharing what Arkansans feel and the faith that Arkansans want to share in their schools to exercise their right to freedom of religion.
Yeah, and this is just to remind people, basically, if you want a poster that says "In God We Trust," you can hang it in your classrooms, right?
Yes.
In schools.
Yes, and that's part of the law now, and I think I've got an ad on the radio station
yes,
that
you
shares
do.
my number.
Yep.
So, just get in contact with me or your local legislator. But it's great to see people, 300 people, cheer and celebrate that.
Oh, so when you told them they cheered?
Yes, clapped and gave it a round of applause, and that for they gave religious freedom a cheer. And I had several young people and adults come up who want them for their schools. I've given out about 100. I've had to order 100 more frames. I've got one school that wants 50 more, so I've got to order 100 more frames.
Wow! So
it's really going great, and it's a big point for religious freedom. The truth will win.
That's right. The truth will win. We've been really focused on that this week. That's kind of the mindset we're trying to have with all these issues.
Yeah. I brought some truth with me today.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. I understand that you have a letter that you wrote to the Speaker
yes.
and had other legislators sign on to it in a response to his and Senator Dismang's letter to the governor on the special session.
Yes. And, that letter from the Speaker, I'll just cover that just real briefly, but it requested, it wasn't an order, but they requested that we not bring anything up in the fiscal session to, quote, I think it says, to protect the integrity of the intent. Well, I took a little bit of exception to that because the intent is what the Constitution clearly says, is that with certain thresholds, we can bring issues up in the fiscal session. It's an exception, but Paul, if an exception is never exercised, then there is no exception.
Yeah. So
there has to be times, and there has to be a high threshold, which there is. So I spoke with the Speaker and shared my thoughts, as did several others, but I felt since that letter from the Senate Pro Tem President and the Speaker went out very publicly, and the governor responded indirectly to it publicly, that we as House members needed to respond publicly. So I thought I'd come in here this morning, and I gave a copy of this letter to the Speaker yesterday and spoke with him, and I'll read just very brief what it says. This letter that we gave to the Speaker in response to his says, "This letter is in response to your request for legislators to waive the Arkansas constitutional provisions allowing representatives seeking consideration of non-budgetary legislation to be presented if 2/3 of the members of each house of the General Assembly approve said consideration. This request circumvents representatives' constitutional rights, is an infringement upon our duties and responsibilities, and establishes an untenable precedent for future fiscal sessions. Since the letter was simply a request, we, the undersigned, decline the request and prefer to proceed in accordance with our state constitutional rights inserted in Article 5, Section 5, C2, which states, a bill other than appropriation bills may be considered in the fiscal session if 2/3 of the members of the House of the General Assembly approve consideration of the bill." So I shared.
First of all, thank you for doing that and standing up for just common sense when people I just don't think are using it very much.
Paul, and I spoke with the Speaker yesterday, and the Speaker's worked well with me and others, and I appreciate his thoughts on this. But they asked us
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show today. Welcome. Happy Monday to everybody out there listening, starting your day. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine, and we are really glad that you are participating in that you are listening to the program, because if you don't listen, then we can't accomplish these goals. The phone number is 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Just a quick programming note for our online audience listening across multiple platforms. Just want to let you know we do know and we are aware we have we're experiencing a slight audio distortion. The show is still watchable and listenable, but our audio is just a little bit strange, and we are completely aware of the problem, and we have it scheduled to be fixed this week. So just please bear with us on that. But this the problem that we're experiencing here is not affecting any audio on the radio. All right, so where do we begin? Folks, here in the state of Arkansas, we are kind of at a crossroads, and there are little metrics along the way that you can use to identify where we're going to go, where we are headed. Okay, now these legislative sessions end up just inevitably being these little markers, and we do a good job of telling you what the real truth is. And right now they're in a fiscal session, and they're debating, all kinds. Well, really, I mean, they're not really debating much. It's really kind of just, hey, we're going to execute whatever the governor's agenda or whatever the leadership tells us to do. The whole idea of a fiscal session where the legislators, budget and things like that. I hope that happens, but if it deviates with the governor's agenda, I think you're going to run into problems, and that problem is a lack of a spine, or a lack of a general consensus of people saying we want to emphasize our power as a legislature as a separate but equal branch. But then there are these, every now and then, you get special elections. You get an opportunity for the people in a district to express how they think things are going, and you have one such opportunity out of Russellville in the special election for the Senate District 16. And I know I've spent a lot of time on this, and I'm going to continue to spend a lot of time on it because it's a big deal. We spent a lot of time on it Friday, and the reason it's a big deal is because the other side is making it a big deal. The governor's office and the establishment, they really want to win. The Little Rock Marble Palace lobbyist monolith, they really want Breann Davis to win over the non-establishment pro-liberty Bob Bailey. That's how I would describe him. And it is fascinating that we have this battle, for lack of a better word, between true conservatives that actually just want to be left alone by government, that want to give more liberty to the people, that want small business. I don't know, maybe the small businesses, should be thought of higher than, communist Chinese companies. Ever think about that? And the stakes are really high because, and this is the one thing you've got to understand, in the next 2 weeks, because this special election is on March the 13th. So in the next 2 weeks, the Marble Palace establishment that is running Breanne Davis's campaign are going to do everything they can to get the people distracted. And it's essentially, ooh, look over there. Ooh, look over there. And they're going to do that in an attempt to not talk about what the issues of the campaign actually are. And you know what the number one issue is for Breanne Davis and the Marble Palace establishment that's running her campaign? It's that everything they do, with everything they do, their motivation is a $2 billion a year windfall to Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield and their friends, and that is what is at stake. Everything they are doing it results from the motivation of protecting and ensuring a $2 billion windfall to Blue Cross Blue Shield, which funnels down to lobbyists and their very salaries. That's their motivation, and that's what you've got to understand. They're going to try to distract, look over here, look over there. They don't want to talk about the issues. Instead, they're going, oh, I'm sure. Listen, what Bob Bailey is in for, okay, from the Marble Palace establishment, what they are going to do to Bob Bailey in the next 2 weeks, I don't envy him. I respect him. I respect him because we are going to see once again the reason why ordinary people that would make great representatives of their citizenry don't get into politics. Because if you don't take the lobbyist money, if you don't take the status quo Marble Palace money, they will find, and you actually stand for freedom, oh, they're going to destroy you. And they already tried. How do you think? I mean, it's very easy. I mean, obviously this came from somebody. How did Bob Bailey, and remember those Facebook posts? Oh, Bob Bailey put a Confederate flag up on his Facebook page one time. Oh, Bob Bailey had a funny meme with Henry Cavill Superman about Pine Bluff. I mean, and then, of course, they took his high school mascot from Illinois out of context and put that out. And yet it goes on all of the mainstream news outlets. Okay, it goes on the Fox affiliate. It goes on the ABC affiliate, right? It goes on the NBC affiliate. Well, how does that happen? How do you coordinate that? It's just a little old Senate district race. I'll tell you how. A $2 billion windfall for for Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield. That is everything they're talking. And of course, when I say that, I'm talking about Obamacare Medicaid expansion. They are trying. The question is, right? The question that I asked the Republicans down at the Marble Palace who are in session right now, why are Republicans fighting tooth and nail to keep a socialist program from a socialist president? It's because $2 billion is at stake, folks. And that's the way they see it. And it's not $2 billion to the economy. It's $2 billion to the CEOs and to the. It's not like it's going to actually help people. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not actually in a free market where we're having an exchange. It's not the kind of stimulus they want you to think it is. It's going to blue. I mean, and you could say it does help people if you're going to talk about somebody has insurance that may not have it. I guess I could see that argument. But they're not making that argument. Okay? They're not, because they're not actually making the argument that you would expect traditional leftists to make, which is pain point politics. Although I'm sure they will eventually. Pain point politics, you just want people to die on the streets without insurance. No, actually, let's think about this. Let's think about, for a second, what could the Marble Palace establishment that's running the Breanne Davis campaign, what are they going to say about Bob Bailey? What do you think they're going to say? Well, first of all, they'll start and they'll say, well, he has no experience. They love to say that about political outsiders, right? They said that a lot about Trump. He has no experience, right? Of course, the fact that Bob Bailey has no political experience is actually the one thing that qualifies him for the job. What else may they say? Well, they've already tried to say that he's a racist. because that's what that whole that's what that whole mainstream media hit job was that went across the media right before the election last time. That's what that was about. They tried to say that he was a racist. So, I mean, I would expect them to take that even farther. I think the Marble Palace establishment, again, that's running Breanne Davis's campaign, that represents Asa, I think that they're going to try to paint Bob Bailey as an extremist in the next 2 weeks. And they may go even beyond that. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. Again, if anything, Bob Bailey needs to be commended for doing this, because this is when the stakes are this high, they're going to take an average guy who is a good man who's just trying to, just trying to represent his district, and because he doesn't take that monolith money, because he doesn't take it, because he doesn't play ball, because he opposes Asa Hutchinson's agenda. And I've got an old article right here, back from February 28th of 2016. Michael Wickline, headline, Governor seeks to tip scales on 8 races. Yeah, you don't have this article, Joe. But it just talks about how the governor supports candidates that are going to endorse his agenda. And then he's supporting Breanne Davis. It's the same thing. It's an old article, but it's the same mentality. I'm going to support someone that's going to support my agenda. And so if you start going down maybe a list of issues here, and I would this was what would be interesting, if you go look at what Asa has supported, things like supporting the increase in your gas taxes. Asa supports that, to fund roads. He doesn't. I mean, we're already giving a lot of money to the government to do things that they come back and say, no, we don't have the money to do. What's the problem with that? Okay, so, I mean, look, Breanne Davis is perfectly willing to come out and say she disagrees with the governor, but I don't think she's going to do that. Do you? So if Asa supports a gas tax increase, does Breanne Davis support a gas tax increase? Right? I don't know. I mean, I would assume so, because Asa supports Arkansas Works, and she's on record supporting Arkansas Works and continuing it, and going along with the Marble Palace establishment. Again, a $2 billion Obamacare Medicaid expansion, right? I've already seen Breanne Davis's Second Amendment postcards that she sent out. I'm pro Second Amendment. You know what? She got a photo of duck hunting. Duck hunting. I support your Second Amendment right to duck hunt. Is that what the Second Amendment is? I support your Second Amendment right to kill waterfowl. That's not what the Second Amendment is about. Why in the world? Well, because it's a distorted view. It's how the Democrat Party stayed in office for so long, where they could say, well, I support your Second Amendment. And, the idea a long time ago, when I was growing up, that's what the Second Amendment was thought to be. Second Amendment, oh, yeah, that's just, hunting and fishing and, being a sportsman. Yeah, hunting and fishing is what people used to say. It was ridiculous. So, no, of course, it's the Second Amendment right is the right to keep and bear arms. That's what it is. To protect yourself, to protect your family. It's not the right to go duck hunting. Can you imagine? Founding Fathers, 18th century. Well, the government may take our right away to hunt. No, that would be preposterous. No, it was because of the British, the most powerful army in the world. They just defeated them, and they wanted to hang on to their guns in case America became that same type of government. It's very, very simple. But not if you are a leftist. It's not simple. It's no, you're right to duck hunt. I think most people today in Arkansas understand what the Second Amendment is really about. And it's not about duck hunting. As fun as that sport is, that's not what it's about. So, in the context of Asa Hutchinson calls your Second Amendment right a Second Amendment privilege, and he refers to it as a privilege all the time. And he says, rights, privilege is the same thing. No, they're not the same thing. If you listen to Jan Morgan recount her meeting with the governor, she has an integral knowledge of what the governor believes. And when he calls it a privilege, it's extremely offensive, and he doesn't. And if you, by the way, Asa was on Face the Nation, CBS Face the Nation. Jan Morgan, by the way, was on Capitol View. She did a very, very good job. Asa was on Face the Nation talking about guns because that's, gosh, he straddles a fence so well. We may get into that maybe later in the week about specifically what he said. But I mean, it was just ugh. But we know from Asa's Second Amendment policies that he's pursued in this state that he supports basically the idea of you can have a gun if I believe you are qualified to have a gun in certain places. The permission slip mentality. Here's your right, and that's why. I mean, in that context, I guess it is a privilege. It's your privilege to carry a gun if you go through the proper background checks, the fingerprintings, and you get the permission slip that the government requires you to get. Then, in fact, it is a privilege, but it actually is a right. It's not about duck hunting. I mean, I don't know. Does Breanne disagree with Asa's view of the Second Amendment? See, these are things I think we need to ask ourselves. What else? What else do you think they're going to do to Bob Bailey? I know we got to go to break here, Joe, but I really, really am enjoying this. They're definitely going to say he's got no experience. We know that that's actually his number one qualification. They're going to say that he's an extremist. I think they might go even farther than that. They're going to try to say he's not going to be able to get things done. Now, why? Why will they say that? Well, because they're going to say he won't be able to get things done because he disagrees with the governor. That's the only thing that means. And there are other people down there right now who are in office who disagree with the governor. Now, here's the thing that they're going to say, and we exposed this lie on Friday. This is probably the biggest one, or one of the biggest ones. They're going to say that Bob has not shown up to debate. I saw some uneducated people on Facebook who were chiming in on this, and I got to say, you guys just don't know what you're talking about. Any claim that Bob Bailey is or has been absent from a real debate to which he has been invited is a lie from the opponent's campaign in an effort to discredit Bob. And that's the truth. And if you heard our interview with him on Friday, that would lend credibility to it. But they're also on Facebook. They're creating these fake Facebook pages and things like that. I mean, I'm telling you, the next 2 weeks with this election up in Russellville are going to be bumpy. I mean, it's going to be crazy. It is going to be, and this is why the whole state needs to be paying attention to this. Because if you're a conservative, if you're a limited government conservative, these Senate seats are powerful, and it affects you. If you're for big government and you want bigger government, then you should be paying attention to this as well. If you disagree with Asa's progressive agenda that he's been inflicting on this state, this is a big deal because this is Asa. This is the establishment. This is the monolith against freedom and trying to let Arkansas have a chance at more liberty, not less. And again, everything their campaign does on the ASA side of things is because they want a $2 billion windfall to Blue Cross and Blue Shield. We're taking a break. Back in a minute.
This is Mother Government. My people, the promised revenue gathering to fund my motherly goals, such as the Arkansas Works Obamacare private option has commenced. I have asked my representatives and senators to execute my will concerning new revenues from the tires you use to drive on my roads, the candy and sodas you consume and purchase in my stores, and the digital products you download on my internet. Your sacrifices and tributes, which are owed, display a measure of obedience, but there are still collectible sacrifices I require from the people to increase the work and size of our great government of Arkansas. There are two matters left unresolved. 1. I require a general tribute for all purchases made on my internet. Not just digital products, but all products. My dear children, there are those who would thwart my motherly goals of progress. If you see them, please combat their misguided notions of freedom by using phrases like mom and pop, and tax cheat. 2. I still require more revenue sacrifices concerning your consumption of my gasoline. I require your undying loyalty on the subject. Subjects, in conclusion. More revenue is good. Static revenue is bad. This message was brought to you by your stewards, aristocrats serving Arkansas. Thank you, my children, in advance for your required and expected obedience that keeps society safe and prosperous. And always remember, from cradle to grave.
PHP Parody. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
Back on November the 8th of 2012, November the 8th of 2012, the Republican Party of Arkansas posted this photo on their Facebook page. And it reads this: congratulations to Senator Michael Lamoureux for being elected the first Republican in Arkansas in 138 years. Can you get my face out of there? I'm sorry. So I can. Thank you. Yeah, here it is. Congratulations to Senator Michael Lamoureux of Russellville for being elected the first Republican president of the Arkansas Senate in 138 years. So he's the president pro temp of the Senate, okay? This is Michael Lamoureux again. Now, this is the guy that went on to take that money, $120,000 from the lobbyists, and he got away with it because he's an attorney. Then he went on to become the governor's chief of staff. Then when they found out about the money, he left. Now he works for DBH Consulting. DBH Consulting's client is CVS Caremark. So that's where the big pharma is going, still back into the same district he used to represent. That's the seat that we're in play here. Now, let's cut to the first day of the session 2013, where Michael Lamoureux was delivering a speech on the floor of the Senate, and he taught, and this is where it all began. Listen to this.
Members, I want to thank each of you for this opportunity, and I commit to serve each of you as you commit to serve your people. Whether you're Senator Elliott or Senator Sanders, whether you're Senator David Johnson or Senator Bart Hester, or the rest of us in the middle. Many observers have said this session will be all about Medicaid. I've met with Senators Bookout, Chesterfield, and Teague, and I can tell you that I've heard serious concerns about helping the poor, helping us have health care, and without it, the viability of our hospitals and our rural health care system. But I can also tell you I've met with Senators Irvin and Bledsoe, and I've heard valid concerns about the potential harm some proposals could do to our health care system. I can promise you all, both sides have facts to support their views. If we cannot have an honest, respectful debate here in this special place, then one won't be had. To me, this session is not all about Medicaid, but about how we treat each other as we debate Medicaid.
Stop. This is where it all began, folks. We're up against a hard break, but this is how we treat each other as we debate Medicaid. No, they don't want to be called out as progressives. That's the problem. And you can't have a respectful debate with these people because they essentially think that your facts exposing them are hate facts.
Lightly, publicly, not to bring anything up. And I and others just felt like it was appropriate to politely say no thank you if we
Publicly.
choose publicly
Yeah.
to do that. And in talking with the speaker, if you want to bring something up, the speaker said, Dan, if you want to bring something up, you're welcome to. And I declined at this time. So it's not like they barred us. They offered us that opportunity. But again, it was the part about if you're going to ask us publicly, then I'm going to respond publicly. My old basketball days back at ASU and maybe before that, the referee would go out there and you kind of played the game as the referee allowed you to play the game. And if one side bumped a little bit, then you bump back a little bit. And I felt like this was kind of one of those situations that there's a little bit of pressure put on legislators publicly not to respond.
Yeah, well, it was blind. It was a blindsiding move from where I am, because you have plans to attempt to get people on the record. That's not the reason for it, but that's you want people to vote and into whether or not you can get the 2/3 support to end cap Medicaid expansion to stop the enrollment. And I don't know if they want to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yes, you do.
and they don't want to. They don't want to do that. And so now they blindside it, and they come and they say, you know what? If we want to do other things, we'll do a special session, but we have to have 2/3 undersigned before we'll call the special session. And that's not like there's nothing in the Constitution that says that they just don't want the process to be allowed to work out. That's my theory on this, and it's frustrating because the people are being disenfranchised. The leadership is essentially trying to take y'all's power away from you, and that is wrong.
And then we'll I'm sure talk later as you have about committee assignments and all the power that we've given away. And I was part of that. I admit I voted the wrong way on that, but I hope to change that. But had the speaker and the leadership come to me, and I think others, and said, guys, we don't want you to do this during the special session. Had they done that privately or in a caucus meeting, I'd have raised my hand or said, no, thank you. But thank you for asking, but no, thank you.
Yeah.
But since it was done in a public way, I and a few others just felt like we needed to respond publicly in a polite and professional manner.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you doing that letter. That's really good. To actually have a formal say, thanks, but no thanks. So I've got this other document in front of me. What is this? This has got letterhead from the Arkansas House of Representatives.
Well, it's from Representative Civillo down in the Little Rock area, and I got this last night, and I'm going to have to verify these numbers, but and I can't figure out quite where he's going on this, but they basically list all the numbers of people that they have pulled off of Arkansas Works. So they said our numbers ballooned up to 340-some thousand,
yes.
Close to
Bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Coming up at the top of the hour, we'll be talking with State Representative Dan Sullivan again, because he has some, we talked to him on Friday. He had some great numbers about the amount of money that, we've been wasting in our Medicaid program. We're going to talk to him again about some other information that you need to know. And I think it's going to be good. And then at the bottom of the next hour, State Representative Charlotte Douglas will be on the program. Now, the reason she's coming on is she was in special language? So Senator Brian King last week had a very well thought out proposal to save the state of Arkansas a lot of money by taking this whole Obamacare Arkansas Works boondoggle and just putting it into traditional Medicaid, which saves the state money. Asa and the boys say, no, it doesn't save the state money. But it's just because if you were to do that, Blue Cross Blue Shield doesn't get their windfall anymore. CVS Caremark doesn't get their sweet deals anymore. And they say, I want you to understand something, folks. We've gone over this before, but these people are double-minded individuals. That's the best way I can describe it. They are double-minded people. And they believe in multiple versions of the truth to get them from one crisis to the next and to maintain their power over us. They're double-minded. And an example of that is this. They believe, and they have said, the executive branch has said, that the less people on the Arkansas Works Obamacare, the more money it now saves the state of Arkansas. So the logical question is, how much money would we save if we reduce the rolls to zero? Oh, well, if we reduce the rolls to zero, we actually will lose money then. Really? Are you sure? Or are we just talking about Blue Cross Blue Shield losing money? No, they say we will lose money. Wait a second. It's the largest expansion of government in Arkansas history. It's a welfare program where we give away taxpayer dollars to Blue Cross Blue Shield and then provide free insurance policies to people. And you say that that's going to cost us money if we were to get rid of it? Yes, absolutely. Well, hang on. If the rolls shrink from 300,000 to 280,000 people, we've saved money, right? The governor's office will say, yeah, we saved you money. Ha, vote for me. I shrank the rolls. Vote for me. We saved you money. Okay, well, if we were to end the program and we were to shrink the rolls, let's say, from 300,000 down to zero, down to nothing, oh, no. We can't. And that would cost us money. They're double-minded individuals. They believe that the truth, they believe in the truth is dualistic. There's this version of the truth, and then there's this version of the truth. And that's not far off from what State Representative Marcus Richmond said back in 2015. Old truths. You have the old truth, and you have the new truth. Now, he was doing it to prove a point because Marcus Richmond is a conservative. He was basically exposing that the legislature, the leadership was in bed with they manipulate the facts. And that's called lying. And that's a sad thing. That's the sad thing. You hate to say it, right? You hate to say it. You see, these are facts that, hey, Joe, in the social justice warrior, there are, I heard a new term. I was doing a lot of reading and not focus so much on Arkansas, just kind of the national thing, but that's a word now. A hate fact is essentially like if you were to put out statistics on, let's say, statistics on race, okay, or a statistic on, and they don't like it, then it's a hate fact. Everything is a hate fact, but I'm saying they're really using it when, when you try to, the left doesn't want to debate you on these social justice issues, right? They don't want to debate you on any of this. They want to just call you a racist, or they want to shout you down. But they used to want to at least debate, but they started losing the debate. And so if you come at them with a fact, or if you come at them with a statement and you say, well, stereotypes exist because people reinforce them, like every single day. And that doesn't mean we should treat people based on stereotypes, but that's why stereotypes exist. Oh, that's a hate fact, right? So that's exactly the way that the Marble Palace views this program, okay? They believe that it's all just hate. That's all it is. It's just it's hate, and the facts that come out on it, that's a hate fact. Now, they're not saying that, but that's really what they're doing, and that's exactly what the social justice warriors on the left are doing right now. If they hear something that debunks their argument, but they just don't like it, they just throw these stupid, that's a hate fact. Well, okay, it's still a fact. I'm sorry that the truth bothers you so much.
Does the left not realize the idiocy behind the statement, a hate fact?
Yeah, I mean,
because facts can't have hate. The people who create the facts can have hate. The people who say the facts can have hate, but the facts themselves are not hateful. Mm-hmm. They are just statements that are telling you the truth.
Yes.
If you don't like them, that doesn't mean they're hateful. That just means they're truthful.
Right. So, example, okay, they could say, well, why are you criticizing Breanne Davis so much, Paul? Well, because I think she's wrong. And the facts are, if she wins, it secures a $2 billion windfall for Blue Cross Blue Shield.
If you had said that to someone on the left, their hands would immediately be in the air, eyes rolled.
Well, that's the way that's exactly how big government Republicans are acting now. That's exactly how they're acting, right? So that's a fact, okay? This is about a $2 billion a year program. Okay, this is about, Asa Hutchinson's agenda. These are facts, and this is about Big Pharma's agenda. This is about, can you just pull up the invitation one more time? Can you find the Breanne Davis invitation? I know, it may take a little while. Joe was doing some heavy-duty deleting on that. Wow, that's loud. You were doing some heavy-duty deleting, trying to free up. We've been downloading so much stuff, doing research on our streaming computer. That we have been, anyway. So we also have this headline here. Hopefuls await license decision for growing pot. Suits expected, experts say. Now I'm going to tie this in together. Look at this. Potential medical marijuana growers aren't sure what to make of this week's big reveal. So tomorrow, we're going to find out who has the medical marijuana contracts. Here's the invitation. Throw this back up there. This is an invitation for a fundraiser for Breanne Davis. Okay, this would happen back in December. And you see, of course, medical marijuana at the top of the list. These are all the lobbyists and all of the lobbies that they work for, starting at the bottom: tobacco, internet tax, corporate welfare, alcohol, gambling, Medicaid, big pharma, health care, and marijuana. Now, marijuana, I guess it's only got one line to it, but still, they are certainly a lobby. Okay, now go to this article, Joe. Hopefuls await license decision for growing pot. Suits expected. Okay. On Tuesday, the Arkansas Medical Marijuana Commission plans to announce the state's first 5 groups that will be allowed to legally grow medical cannabis. This is according to Hunter Field, the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, is reporting this. Approval to sell the drug will be given to 32 dispensaries in the coming months, but we're just talking about 5 contracts here, 5 of them. And I think it's interesting here. They talk about David Couch down here in the bottom. David Couch, a Little Rock attorney who was the primary backer of Amendment 98, a primary backer, that would mean the funding person, the financier, is optimistic that the commissioners scored the applications appropriately and that the deserving applicants rose to the top. Couch has applied to grow and sell medical cannabis. I mean, come on, he's got to get this first, right? If you're David Couch, you got to get this contract tomorrow, right? You would think. I mean, if you're the guy that put it on the ballot, that's how Arkansas works, right? That's just how Arkansas works.
Just to cover up any kind of suspicion, they made sure he was the second person that got their contract, not the first.
Yeah, the fix is in, guys. Like I would be. I mean, I'm telling you, I would be completely shocked tomorrow if David Couch doesn't get a contract. That's just my gut feeling. Most applicants hired outside consultants and attorneys to help prepare their applications. Industry insiders estimate that upfront costs for competitive bidders ran between $150,000 and $200,000. Wow. I mean, this is a big business, folks. Medical marijuana, it is the lobby, and it's going to take up a lot of legislators' time. So they're going to have to regulate this. Most of the laws, half of the laws they deal with now are going to have to be concerned around medical marijuana. So anyway, Tuesday's kind of a big day then, So let me just kind of tie this in again back to the Breanne Davis Marble Palace establishment race. Okay. Last week you had the Pope County Republican Party had a meeting. And originally, this was a meeting that was supposed to be scheduled, that was just supposed to be for the Conduit co-founders, Joe Maynard and Brenda Vassar-Taylor, to come and speak and just let them know who they were, because, there was all this talk about money out of Northwest Arkansas, and, of course, no talk about all of the money from Little Rock that's going to support that because Breanne Davis is ACE's candidate. And so notice, Michael Lamoureux and DBH Consulting, and notice they didn't show up to the Pope County Republicans and say, hey, this is who we are, and this is why we believe in liberty, and this is why we believe in the candidate, and this is why we're interjecting ourselves in the race. No, you don't hear from Little Rock lobbyists because it's just a given that they have interests. But you did see that last week at the Pope County Republican, and we covered it on Friday. Go see Friday's broadcast, and you can see or listen to the substance of what Joe Maynard had to say or what Brenda Vassar-Taylor had to say. It was really, really good. Well, when Breanne Davis found out about this meeting, all of a sudden, she, was upset, apparently, and then she brought her supporters there to ask these these questions that were attacking, okay? Well, one such questionnaire was a guy by the name of Michael Wilkins. And let's just go ahead and play the clip for you first, and we'll set this up.
Yes, sir. My name is Mike Wilkins, and Ms. Taylor, I'm glad you're down here to try to help us vote on a more educated level. I'm sure a person of your intelligence out of Northwest Arkansas can come down here and educate us. But while you're talking about being transparent, are you willing to stand here tonight and talk about the fact that Mr. Maynard's family actually is funneling thousands and thousands of dollars through the various political action committees that you control?
What's your last name again, Mike Wilkinson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Speak a little louder, please.
And I agree with Fritz. You're down here pouring thousands and thousands of dollars into the election while you lambast the other candidate over the
Now, how's that being done?
Sir?
How's the lambasting being done?
Through your radio show that I listen to.
Well, that's a radio show. That's not me.
Stop for a second. Stop. This is great. All right. So I have dealt with this criticism before. And Mr. Wilkins, listener of the program, hello, if you're listening, Mr. Wilkins. I am a limited government conservative that believes in smaller government, and so's Joe. I mean, and by the way, this is obviously Conduit News Radio, so I mean, you guys can obviously figure that one out, right? I guess we can figure out who's associated with who, right? But as far as Joe lambasts anyone, no, he's not doing that. And the stuff that I'm doing here on the program, again, are facts. Now, you may consider, again, lambasting and hate facts, I guess, are the same thing in this context. That's why I wanted to do this segment and kind of clear the air here, right? You're down here pouring all kinds of money in. Again, no mention of the money coming from Little Rock. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to have any conversation about that. And, of course, we talked about the hypocrisy of Breanne Davis, who later on in this meeting got up and said, yeah, we don't need to talk about where the money's coming from because there's money coming from both outside and inside the district to both candidates. Let's not talk about it. And then 2 days later, she goes to the Chamber of Commerce trap event, which it was, and she says, well, my opponent is getting money from Northwest Arkansas, and she makes it an issue. Brings it back up after she had just said she doesn't think it should be talked about anymore. So, real quick, though, can we go to the PDF? So that guy who's really upset, so upset, you're coming down here and you're putting money in our district. Again, Mike Wilkins, this guy, apparently doesn't care too much about what's going on from Little Rock. That's outside the district as well. Where's the PDF, though? The actual PDF, not the photo, the PDF. Yeah. This is what we want. Okay, so here we have an application for medical marijuana cultivation facility. All right, and the business name is the Pine Bluff Agriculturals 2 LLC. The listed, do what? What is it?
It's agriceuticals.
Oh, agriceuticals.
Like
okay.
pharmaceuticals.
Pine Bluff Agriceuticals LLC. This is the application. It's a Russellville address. And then we scroll down here, limited liability company, and look, who's the registered agent name? Michael Wilkins. No, it couldn't be. It couldn't be. It couldn't be the same person. Well, it is the same person. So the same person that's complaining about outside money coming in the district and doesn't care that outside money's coming in from Little Rock is the same guy that is applying for a medical marijuana license in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. So, and I'm told that originally they wanted to put it in Saline County, but that kind of fell through. If you do the research on this, it's ridiculous. And so, again, I wanted to highlight that if you were at that Pope County Republican Party meeting, and by the way, the people who were there, they totally understood what that was. I mean, they appreciated the honesty of Joe Maynard and Brenda Vassar-Taylor talking about why they care about smaller government and liberty, why they care about the Arkansas Senate, and it was actually very well received. But Breanne Davis's supporters who want something from government, that's the whole thing, man. Big business or people who have hopes to be medical marijuana farmers, they want favors from the government. And this is a problem. And most people do. You support a politician and we'll give you a favor. But that's not the way most people think our government should work. That's not the way most people think our government should be run. And that's, again, the difference here. Now, you can call it lambasting one candidate all you want, and you can be upset that there's a limited government radio show on in the district. You can be mad at that, right? But let me tell you something. Let me tell you guys something. I have watched what has been going on down there for a long time, and for people to just show up at the last minute because you want power and not really understand who you're in bed with, and I think that's at least one person in the Breanne Davis campaign, maybe not this guy, it really kind of, it irritates me. It really does. And I mean, I have been engaged and I have been fighting for smaller government since I've started this program. Since I was given the opportunity to start this program, all the way back in 2009. And I gotta tell you, folks, I'm tired of Arkansas just continuing to go along to get along, and we ignore the fact that this state produced arguably the most powerful political family in the world of the Clintons, and they got their start based on the way the things work down in the Marble Palace that have not changed one bit. And when I see that, and it drives me nuts, and I see that we've now switched to Republicans instead of Democrats, but we still have the same mentality within the Republican Party now, which is the good old boy system. It is the Clinton machine, and it's not been reformed. And in order to reform it, you got to expose it. And, it's not a very popular thing. Call it hate facts. Call it lambasting the other candidate. I want more liberty. I actually want to see lower taxes. I don't want to see a shell game where we just shift things around. I've listened to Asa. I know what he stands for, and I disagree with him. I do not believe he's a conservative. I don't believe the people he supports are conservatives. It's really just that simple. Oh, and by the way, I also have a mind of my own, too, by the way. And I really believe the things that I say. And I am really, really happy and blessed to be doing a show called Conduit News Radio. That is an organization run of like-minded people. Can you imagine what the odds are of working with people in politics that you agree with so verily? It really is something special. We got to take a break. You're listening to Conduit News Radio. My name is Paul Harrell, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Buy, sell, and trade at Triple R Pawn in Ash Flat. Firearms, computers, sporting goods, musical instruments, tools, jewelry, and everything else you can think of. It's all at Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat. Gun enthusiasts, log on now to TripleRPawn.com and browse their amazing inventory. That's rrpawn.com. You can also call them at 870-994-PAWN. That's 870-994-7296. Let the great team at R Pawn help you find what you're looking for. That's R Pawn at the light in Ash Flat, rrpawn.com, or call 870-994-PAWN. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Now, so I said a bumpy 2 weeks. It's going to get even. Really, this is going to continue. I mean, this is. We have primaries, and people on the Facebook Live watching over at facebook.com/Conduit News, they understand as well that this is not just about District 16. District 16 is the closest as far as amount of time, because we got 2 weeks until this runoff. But then you also have what's going on up in Fort Smith. Okay, you got that special election to fill out the 4 months left in Jake Files' term, and then you're going to have a new election. And then you have primaries. You know, you got. Let's think about Senate District 19. Senate District 19, Senator Linda Collins Smith and James Sturch. Of course, State Representative James Sturch is the governor's choice to try to remove one of the most conservative senators in the legislature, Senator Linda Collins Smith. And that's going to be, and there are rumblings, I'm just to be honest, there are rumblings that there's even going to be a third candidate in that race. And I don't know who, but that's what I'm told. And I'm people are skeptical that it's an establishment plot to try to get it to a runoff and try to, split the vote and that sort of thing. Well, that's fine, whatever. Conservative message is either going to win or it's not. So, I mean, you just got to kind of be up. You just kind of got to let the chips fall where they may, because the truth wins in the end. And then, of course, you've got Brian King deciding to run again. So that means there's a primary between Brian King, one of the most conservative people in the Senate, and Bob Ballinger, who, by the way, State Representative Bob Ballinger will be on the program tomorrow at 7:30. So we'll talk to him. And there is an interesting article right now up at conduitforaction.org about that race and about the fact that Senator King has decided to run when many people thought he was not going to run. Folks, we have one more hour coming your way next. We'll be talking with State Representative Dan Sullivan and State Representative Charlotte Douglas. Don't go anywhere.
talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
350,000, we'll say, and the governor and DHS has been working very diligently, and I'll give that to them, to pare those numbers down. And this kind of breaks down to the number of people that we've had on Arkansas Works, and this is a point in time. So these numbers may vary at different times. So this is a snapshot of how many people they have pulled off Arkansas Works. And I'm going to have to verify this, Paul. And if I find that these numbers are wrong, or somebody calls you later in the day and says they're wrong, I'm very willing to step back. But my point is, if you're out there listening, hold your wallet right now.
Okay.
So you can really get a feel for what this is.
These numbers don't look good, let me tell you.
Yeah, it says, the Department of Workforce Services, they've captured 16,000 people through working with workforce services that they've pulled off of Arkansas Works. So that's 16,500 times $500 a month. And this has been going on for a number of years. That's just in workforce services. People who are receiving benefits in more than one state, 25,700 at $500 a month for a number of years. So these are people that
let's just say 36 months.
36 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold your wallet.
So that's a waste. Joe, do the math on that. $500 a month times 25,742. Here, and then $500 a month times 16,467. And listen for the next number.
These are people that are. Those are people that are doing it in 2 states. And by the way, I spoke to an optician who's from South Arkansas this week, past week, and he said he had a lady come up and wanted glasses. He did all this through Arkansas Works, gave the glasses to her, and she said, no, I want contacts. And he said, well, Arkansas Works doesn't cover that. So she says, well, my boyfriend will pay for that. He says, great, come back tomorrow and I'll get him. She says, well, I can't. I live in Louisiana. But I'll stay here overnight to get them.
And she was on Arkansas Works. She was
on Arkansas Works, and
it must be
because
nice.
her mother lives up here, and so they come and visit her mother. But that's what that 25,000 number is.
Okay, Joe. Joe didn't write down quick enough. Joe, you got a pen? You ready?
I think I got them numbers.
You got them. All right, 16,467 people were on it for 36 months, let's say. I mean, or for a long time. And this is a problem that's been going on, times 500. And then you got 25,742.
You only rolling 36 months?
Just do a year.
Just do a year. Just do 12 months. Yeah, just do 12 months.
So, Joe, that's 6,000 if you need a little help.
And then, go to the next one, Dan.
Right, then establishes a process to sort large volumes of return mail due to people with bad addresses. So now you'd think we wouldn't pay for that. But if you're enrolled, we pay the insurance company first, and then we vet you later. So these people with bad email addresses, you can take, if it takes a few weeks or a few months to vet the people that have bad addresses,
right?
We're still paying that.
Gosh.
And that number is
26,000.
I'm sorry, 26,000.
93. So the other number would be 26,093 people.
Yeah,
okay?
Turn your page over, Paul.
Because,
there's more in the back.
And this actually says up here earlier, it says from January 1st to January 2018. So I think that's what these numbers are coming from.
And then it said the next one is identify those on Medicaid now eligible for Medicare. So again, there are people who are switching programs, and while we are paying those people on this program, Arkansas Works, they really should be on Medicare. So the taxpayer's paying for them either way, but you're double paying for them.
Oh gosh.
Federal taxes and state taxes, and that number is 7,200. And again,
you got that 7,200, Joe.
Those people are on, and we're trying to vet them post, but we're paying the whole time they're on there. The elimination of individuals incarcerated in the Department of Corrections, people who were on Arkansas Works or Medicaid, and now they're in the Department of Corrections. They would normally fall off.
We're still paying the insurance companies, even though now they're in prison. Oh, my gosh.
4,100.
Yeah, 4,100.
And the last category Hope you have your wallet.
Last
They're
one.
working on these people who are have identities over the federal poverty level. So you on Arkansas Works, you now have a job, and you should come off, but we don't know it.
Okay.
And that's about 700.
Okay.
So that total number, and again, you have to remember once you sign up for Arkansas Works, we're paying the insurance company. Now, if you, in the real world, if your insurance company found out about that, your insurance company would say, look, you owe us.
You owe us money, pay
Send it
up.
back. But we are not, Arkansas Works is not established that way. And I'll give credit to Medicare, to Department of our DHS. They're working very hard, and they've.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, welcome back to the program. This is hour number 2, and it is Monday. We do appreciate you being with us today, the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Welcome back into the program. We got live in studio State Representative Dan Sullivan is with us. Dan, welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Glad to be here. We had a really enjoyed the interview last week, and went home and just got an email. I have an alert, a Google alert that pops up.
Really? And this was after we were on Friday. Wow.
Yes, and it popped up, and I think it's dated late February, just this week. The new GAO Government Accounting Office report came out. And let me read you a few of these headlines on the reports. And I think you had the reports posted on your Facebook page. It says the GAO evaluations yielded limited results, underscoring the need for changes to federal policy and procedures. Another quote from them, the watchdog agency looked at demonstrations in Arizona, Arkansas, and Massachusetts and found sufficient limitations in each, from the lack of information on quality measures to failure to discuss rationales and and conclusions. And finally, a review of Arkansas's evaluation of a demonstration using Arkansas Medicaid funds to purchase private insurance for a select group of Medicaid beneficiaries also came up short, failing to address the hypothesis that doing so would improve community coverage.
Wow.
So in light of what we talked about and the numbers, and I also have a report, it was posted on the DHS, that they claim 73,000 ineligible enrollees in 2017. 73,000 people.
Wow, so that's a little different from the math we did on Friday.
Yeah, but we'll take the lower, just to concede that. That's 73,000 times 578 approximately.
Yeah. Per month. That's the monthly cost.
Yeah, that's million. I think about $40 million a year of people who are not eligible. So even if we were to concede, we may oppose Arkansas Works in general, but let's just take that $40 million population. And Paul, as we mentioned last week, those were people who were in jail, people who they have an address but they don't live there, people who live in other states, all kinds of folks who really shouldn't be eligible.
They're on there fraudulently. It's fraud. Yeah. We've paid money. The taxpayers have now paid money for these people to be on, and they shouldn't have ever been on.
Yeah. They're almost illegal immigrants moving into our program from other sources that shouldn't be eligible. And I would think that...
that's an interesting comparison, but I like that comparison, actually.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll hear that later.
Well, I think it's a good comparison if you think about... just the bad deal that we're getting. I mean, if you look at who's benefiting from this, which is a giant company, you got Blue Cross Blue Shield. It is a $2 billion windfall for them, while the people who are out there, working every day and paying for the program are not getting a good deal.
Yeah, and Paul, my point with this, it's time to put our Kansans first. You hear our president say that over and over, put Americans first in our contracts. And all we have with Arkansas Works, which is Obamacare, all we have is a contract with basically 3 insurance companies in the state of Arkansas. And it's time that those contracts put our Kansans first. If Arkansas Works patients or Obamacare patients get their copay waived in certain areas, then the insurance companies ought to let regular Arkansans waive their copay. In Arkansas Works, if you have a premium to pay, but if you can't pay it in Arkansas Works, it gets waived. Well, then the same ought to be true for Arkansans. If you're having a hard time and you can't make your premium, then the insurance companies ought to waive your premium. But it's time to put Arkansans first. You're hearing the same thing from the pharmacies. You know what their cry is? Level playing field.
Yep.
That's all they ask for. And that's all I'm asking for is a level playing field for all Arkansans so that these insurance companies and the state treats everybody the same. If you went into your local car dealer and you said, I'd like to have my car, and they said, great, this is the one I want, I'm going to drive it off the lot, and I'll send the paperwork for my loan in later. Mm-hmm. How many of those car dealers would let you do that?
Yeah, exactly.
If you tried to buy a home and you said, I love this home, I'll take it. By the way, I'll send the paperwork in later, but I'm going to start living here. And I'm sure your realtor would go, sure, I'll get the paperwork. I may come back in 2 or 3 months and you have to leave, but I'm going to let you live there now. That's what's going on with Arkansas Works with these people who are enrolling fraudulently.
So we talked about on Friday, okay, so they removed these people and they're celebrating it, but if you actually look at how long they were on the program, they were on it fraudulently, they cost the state a lot of money, and we have done nothing to shut the door to where they can't come back in.
Exactly, and that's what the GAO report says, that the data is limited, and if people want to go look that up, it's really Arkansas is really pointed at specifically in this, that the data is limited, the data is inaccurate, and our ability to capture those people is, and our DHS, we'll give them a lot of credit, great job in getting in there. The previous administration created this. Now, this administration has gone in and cleaned those rolls up. So one has to determine what error rate are you comfortable with in your business. I know you've got a lot of business people out there that all kinds of small businesses. I wonder what error rate they're comfortable with for people walking out of the door with their product for a promise to pay later. Mm-hmm. I think the error rate would be 0. Try going into your local physician and asking your physician if your local doctor will see you, and you'll give them your insurance card when you leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Won't happen.
So, Joe, sorry about that. If we were to essentially get insurance in another way other than Arkansas Works, they're going to scrutinize us before we actually have coverage.
Right.
That's not what's happening with, or if they paid for something that when we didn't qualify, we'd have to repay that benefit.
Yes.
Right. And so that's a huge issue here is these 70,000 people that we paid for that were on there illegally. Blue Cross Blue Shield's not giving any money back to the state of Arkansas on that.
Maybe they could voluntarily do that. Maybe we could go to them and say, look, guys, these were on fraudulently. Many of them probably had no claims. I mean, they had the wrong address. They're from other states. A lot of different things there. Many of them probably had no claims. Maybe we can just get them, the insurance companies, to voluntarily rebate to the citizens of Arkansas. Treat us fairly, rebate that money. That's our highway money, Paul.
Yeah.
When you're talking $40 million a year since 2013, however you calculate that, and if you average it, even give them a lower average of $30 million a year. Mm-hmm. You're talking $150, $200 million a year for people who were on this program illegally and or unethically.
Yeah.
We paid that money to the insurance companies. The insurance companies accepted that money, and Arkansans don't have that same opportunity.
Yeah.
It's just time to treat Arkansans, treat the people of Arkansas, make them the priority in all of our contracts. And I think people who, again, if you set this population aside, this is not the population of people who qualify. This is the population of people who don't
qualify but got on anyway.
Still got paid. And not only got on, but we paid for them. And let's have both parties agree, Republicans and Democrats agree, that's not a good thing. And let's decide what error rate are we comfortable with. You know, I hope everybody running for office and the voters will ask their legislators, and they'll ask both candidates, what error rate for Arkansas works are you comfortable with? Are you comfortable with $5 million a year, $10 million a year, $20 million a year? What's a good number for them? And then go ask their local business, what error rate is your local business comfortable at? People walking out the door with their product. I think in business it'd be zero.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Yeah, it would be zero.
Yeah. You know, I hope people will go look at that report, because it really says that Arkansas's ability to capture this information is really difficult. And I think if you look back, and I know our administration's going to say that they've done a really good job at reducing that number. And I would agree they've reduced it quite a bit. However, I think in September we had another repayment we had to make of $3 million.
Yeah, it was like a liability. Yeah, $3 million.
Liability.
Yeah,
we failed to do the due diligence in how we used the state's money. So I think our history at the government level of these big government programs, managing tens of thousands of people, that some people are comfortable with paying $5 to $10 to $40 million a year for that overage, and it's just not the way we need to be treating the people of Arkansas.
No, I agree, because it's the people of Arkansas that suffer here, especially if you're talking about people who don't even live here that are getting the coverage. I mean, you're exactly right, and it really does sound a lot like President Trump. You know, I mean, I'm telling you, I believed him when he said in his State of the Union address that everything he does is trying to make sure it's in the best interest of all Americans, you know, and the people, not just, you know, the special interest, things like that. And I really believe that. I thought that was one of the most sincere parts of his State of the Union address, that he really does think about. I hope I'm not just being duped, but I mean, I guess join the club of being duped by politicians if he's not sincere. But I really felt like he was sincere, and that seems to be what you're saying here, is that the people of Arkansas are paying for this program, and yet there is a failure rate of just wasting money. And you're talking about a lot of money a month, really. I mean, if you talk about, you know, these people are on the program for a year, and you know, 70,000 of them on the program for a year. That's a lot of money.
It is, and they're illegally on the program, and, you know, it's time to kind of build a wall between.
There you go. Yeah, it's, and the Blue Cross Blue Shield are sanctuary cities, because honestly,
essentially,
yeah.
Yeah, we got people coming on the program illegally and are staying on there. They're getting paid, and it actually is a sanctuary place for people who are on it illegally. And if you look at that comparison, I think that's a valid one.
It's a great comparison, actually.
Let me go just a little bit different direction, Paul, just to inform your listeners, because this is not isolated. You know, behavioral health is a huge concern right now all around the state, in all the states, and Arkansas is changing to a managed care model for behavioral health. For quite a period of time, Blue Cross Blue Shield, there was a select group of people, Blue Cross, UAMS, St. Bernard's here in Jonesboro, Washington General up in northwest Arkansas, and our state agency, DHS, was meeting privately. And they had a number of private meetings talking about this managed care model. They eventually rolled it out, and other people joined in, other providers joined in. To screen people into that program, we hired a company for $20 million. Even though we have local physicians who know the patient well, who are independent, they see them. DHS screens them already. Now we hire a third party at $20 million to screen these people into the program. Screening sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And our ability to screen them. That program is due to launch July 1, and right now they are 10,000 people behind.
Wow.
10,000.
In screening them.
They're asking your local school district to help screen them. They're asking providers to help screen them. And guess what the company that was hired is saying? We can't find them.
So what do we pay the $20 million for if they're not doing their job?
Well, actually, they only get paid, and it's another insurance company, Optum.
Well, okay, before you answer that, managed care, pharmacy benefit managers, sounds like we're talking about kind of the same model here. Or potentially. Am I wrong on that? I mean, it seems like pharmacy benefit managers are really hurting local pharmacists because they get the sweet deal with Blue Cross Blue Shield, CVS Caremark, and now we're going to go into managed care for other entities.
Yeah.
It seems kind of a similar thread there.
It's a funnel.
Yeah.
You know, manage when you have managed care, you're creating a funnel, and the person at the funnel is the key to how, and that's the way you manage money. I mean, it's not a bad in essence and in principle, managing that care is important. And I voted for the managed care model. I support that because we have to manage the Medicaid dollar, and having tight scrutiny over it is very, very important.
Okay, so
if you manage it, what's the important factor? Who gets to do that?
Ah, okay.
Who is the manager?
Right.
Well, in the pharmacy model, it's the PBM. In the managed care behavioral health model, it's going to be this company, Optum, who screens and tells patients what level of care they're going to get. Even though, again, you have independent physicians, DHS screening them, you set up a separate agency at, again, $20 million to do it again.
And you're saying it's redundant.
And redundance, and the company Optum said there's something in it for us. We don't get paid if we don't do the assessment, so we're going to run out there and we'll do them all. You don't have to worry, we'll take care of it. Well, now they were saying we can't find the kids. We can't find the people to screen. Well, the people are there. It just costs money to find them.
Wow.
You have to go hunt them and find them. They're in the school. They're being seen now. So if it costs money to find them, now they're saying we can't. We need help. It's just another instance where big government programs tend to fail. You know, the behavioral health model screening was working pretty well. There were some excesses, and I met with DHS to help them identify how to track those excesses down and those overpayments down. I work with DHS to do that. But again, we just get back to the same issue that big government, these big programs of managing the money, you have to look and see who the managers are. That's where the money is going.
Yeah, well, no doubt. I just feel like we just start adding more and more layers. I mean, everywhere you look, more and more layers, and I think we're getting negative results for the people. I appreciate your sentiments and where you're going with this because I think it's really good. And any chance you get in a bill, your bill heard to end or cap Medicaid expansion?
We're going to look. We'll wait. We should have a vote on the DHS budget maybe this week or next week.
Okay.
And depending on how that vote goes, will determine how hard we push to get that cap on.
Okay.
Right now, I don't know if they have the votes to pass the DHS budget.
Really?
And if they do pass it, then we'll work a little bit harder to work hard to get that cap out there. Again, it's important that the contracts that we negotiate as a government, it's important we put our Kansans first. It's their money. That's where all the money starts. It's important that we do that first. Every small business that's out there listening, you need to consider and encourage all your legislators to put our Kansans first in all these contracts.
Yeah, and right now our money's just being thrown out the door because we got so many, people who are on the program illegally.
Yeah, I don't know if it's out the door or if it's thrown to those managed people.
Yeah, it's thrown to, yeah. Blue Cross Blue Shield is our insurance manager for the state of Arkansas, folks. All right, Dan Sullivan, I appreciate you coming on, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Glad to be here.
Folks, we're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. Back in just a moment. In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst, how are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal. Ethics. Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody.
Exposing the truth and everything the Marble Palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Coming up at 7:33, we'll be talking with State Representative Charlotte Douglas. She was, I believe it's a special language committee where Senator Brian King, they heard what I think would have been a great solution on basically just moving this whole debacle into traditional Medicaid. Of course, the governor responded to that by saying that Brian King is irrelevant. And then, of course, we had the news that Brian King is going to be running for re-election again. Joe, if you could head over to conduitforaction.org, I want everybody else to check this out. Here's a commentary. Senator Brian King surprises challenger. He's announced that he will be a candidate for re-election. Of course, State Representative Bob Ballinger of Berryville had already announced he would be a candidate for the Senate seat. According to the Democrat Gazette, Ballinger called King an angry man who can't work with other lawmakers. Ballinger's claim was quickly contradicted by the endorsement of Senator King by Representative Charlotte Douglas. And you've got a link to the Facebook post of Representative Douglas. Quote, I'm supporting Senator Brian King for re-election. He is in budget this morning fighting to limit government so we can return more money to Arkansas. I want to reiterate with you, we're talking with Representative Charlotte Douglas coming up next, not Representative Dan Douglas. Sorry. They're closing the limited, whatever they sell, I don't know. We never got an interview. Never got an interview, Dan. So as I'm standing there at the urinal doing what we all do. Oh, okay. You know what? Sorry, we're doing the music montage late. I've got to scratch the itch. So later in the show, definitely doing the Dan Douglas music montage. Back in just a moment.
Cut these numbers down, but that's the error that we've had in the past in this program.
Question is, are these doors still open for this to happen again?
Took the words out of my mouth. The door is still open. So we're going to continue to enroll people in all of those categories
and
continue to pay monthly for them. Now, to DHS's credit, and the governor inherited this problem, and the administration inherited this. They've worked hard to cut these numbers down.
Right.
But my issue is you got to close the door.
Yeah.
We would never do a contract with the state, and I heard the Office of Procurement talk the other day in budget, and they talked about all the strict and stringent requirements they have and the clawbacks they have and all the contractual obligations with performance standards and all of this. We don't have that here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the biggest expense we have in the state.
It is, and it's the driver of our spending.
Driver of our spending, but we do not vet at the same level we do with any other contract in the state. If we did, I'm sure people would be losing their jobs.
That's frustrating.
And here we're promoting this, and that's why I have a resolution, and Josh Miller has a bill out there that to cap or to end enrollment in Arkansas Works. We want to provide, and I think there's nobody in Little Rock that wants to take money away from people that have a serious need, who have problems or struggling, and we need to help them and have that safety net, whatever you want to call that.
They really can't take care of themselves. They're
really
truly needy.
Yeah, but this group here, these are people and you're actually double paying on many of them. You're paying federal taxes on them. They're in 2 states, so you're paying that federal tax dollar and you're paying an Arkansas tax dollar. And I think this is, I've tried to stay out of other people's campaigns. I'm trying to win mine. I've got a primary opponent.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stay out of the
Though the healthcare
race.
industry doesn't like that you're pro free market, and you've tried to save money inside the healthcare system. They're upset with that. That's why the governor, in my opinion, is involved in finding you an opponent, and so you have one. So
well, I think I think it's more than just one person. I think there's a whole industry that's interested in that.
Correct.
Doesn't just come from one office or one person. There's a whole industry that has a vested interest in getting that money to Little Rock so they can take it out of Little Rock back to their programs. And I think both sides are fine for people that really have a need. Here, what we've just demonstrated, there's a bunch of people that don't, that we're double paying, and we need to stop that. The only way to do that is to end that program and reestablish a new baseline that is equitable and fair.
And you guys can do this in the fiscal session too. I mean, you really can. But people got to be willing to step up and do it. It's common sense. Senator Brian King had a proposal the other day that failed.
The intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, good morning. Thank you guys so much for listening to the program. I want to welcome back to the program. We have State Representative Charlotte Douglas is with us. Charlotte, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning to you. Now, you are the state representative for District 75, correct?
I am.
So can you kind of tell us geographically where that is?
That starts in the area around Mountainburg, Arkansas, comes down around Mulberry and Dyer, and then crosses the river and takes in Lavaca and Greenwood.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, that is, yeah, well, we got listeners across the state. And so sometimes, like, I get a criticism, like District 75, and they're like, Paul, no one knows where that is. So I try to at least tell people that where you guys are actually from. Okay. So you tell us, there was a thing that happened last week, and I believe it was in the Special Language Committee. And I wanted to know if you could walk us through what you witnessed. And Senator Brian King, of course, was there trying to, get a proposal passed that would have done what, in your opinion?
Mm-hmm. Well, what he was proposing was to move the those that are eligible for Arkansas Works over to traditional Medicaid, and he had done the research on it, and it's very obvious that it would be less expensive to the state to serve that population under traditional Medicaid, and this trend is being, we would just be following a trend that many, many other states have chosen to do it this way. So he had proposed this. He gave DHS a year to be able to get a waiver, to be able to move this population. And the beauty of his program is that the state's responsibility under moving this population would have been the same match as what they currently have under Arkansas Works. So essentially, in my opinion, there would be a harmless move to do that. And we would just pay for any services that are rendered instead of having to pay these exorbitant premiums every month to a third-party insurance company.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The asking for the waiver, for the 90-10 match, just to move everybody over to traditional Medicaid, is reasonable because the states that went ahead and expanded Medicaid without involving Blue Cross Blue Shield and making them rich, that's what they did, and they got the 90-10 match as well. I mean, that was what the original plan was under Obamacare. And at this point, you just got to look at how much this is costing us. And we've got no money for roads. We've got tax increase proposals, and we've got tax increases that have happened. And it's just we've kind of got a budget crisis, I think, in the state. What do you think?
I agree. And why are we having to quibble over giving the transportation department money to fix the potholes in our roads? It's because of this program. It's just sucking the life out of the state. It's growing twice as fast as education spending, and all of the educators, all of my schools are fearful that they won't have the money that they need, to educate our kids. Where are tax increases going to come, or tax cuts going to come from? If we are paying this much money for this population, that is a working population. It's not your frail. It's not your children. It's not your pregnant women. It's not your elderly. It is a working population that we are giving free insurance to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're supposed to be working. And I know some do, but a lot don't. And that's but the age is, they were talking about able-bodied folks. We're talking with State Representative Charlotte Douglas, and I would like to get, Senator King's proposal here failed last week. So kind of walk us through, was there any discussion? It was in the Special Language Committee or the Subcommittee on Joint Budget. So what exactly happened?
Right. Well, he gave his proposal, very articulately explained, just moving that population, keeping the match. And he had one question, I believe, and then when the question, it looked like there was, not going to be any more discussion, I called for, a motion to accept his proposal, and then there was a silence in the committee. And there was no one that wanted to step up and second that so we could get it out of committee and move it over to joint budget. And, what I grieve over that's happening at the state level, and I don't blame as much the people on the committee as I do just a culture of this ship has already sailed, there's nothing we can really do. And that is pervasive up here because they don't understand the numbers of why this needs to end. There's a lack of transparency. Leadership is not bringing this to the table so that we can discuss it. And so there was no second. So it died on the table and did not get to advance.
Okay. So
and, there was, we could sponge the vote, or we could, do something like that. But again, it would take a second to do that, and that did not look like it would happen.
Yeah. All right. So to recap, State Representative Charlotte Douglas, she was the only one, and she makes a motion to pass. There is no second, so they don't even consider it. For our viewing audience, we do have a list up of the Special Language Subcommittee Joint Budget, the voting members present there, and I think you're right, State Representative Douglas, because as far as the leadership goes, the operative word there would be leading, and you've got to, okay, so there is leading going on, but in which direction? And there seems to be no interest in undoing what I think many Republicans that I would kind of call establishment Republicans have kind of attached their political futures to this, quote, success of this program. And it's like, why are so many politicians down there that would campaign as being conservatives, why are they fighting tooth and nail to keep a socialist program from a socialist president? Do you have any answers for that?
Well, at the very beginning, and it was a brilliant strategy, from leadership under BB, but it was our first year to have a slight majority, and we could have defeated this private option, but they sold it as a Republican answer to Obamacare, and that eased people's conscience about voting this in, because we were being picked off one by one for our votes, and no telling what people were getting for their votes. And you were able to go back home and say that this was the Republican alternative.
Mm-hmm.
It was not, and we know that, but it was easy to soothe your conscience by saying this was the Republican alternative.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where that went off the rails as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and we were recovering from it ever since. I mean, earlier in the broadcast, I was playing.
Well, there's no recovery. Yeah, we're suffering from it.
Yeah, it's exactly right.
So,
yeah. It's. I was playing a video earlier in the first hour of the program. We played at the time Senator Lamoureux. He had just been selected as the president pro temp of the Senate, and it was the first day of session 2013. And he's talking about Medicaid, and he's talking about how we've got to be respectful when we have this debate. I know we've got to be respectful, and it seems. I mean, I find it difficult, and you're very respectful and you're very articulate, and I really appreciate your voting record and being a conservative. But it just seems at some point we get down to it and they say, well, you guys are not the conservatives that you claim to be, in doing this, and it becomes very awkward. And I think it's divided the Republican Party. I think the divide continues today. And,
it is.
And when people found out, by the way, that it wasn't the Republican alternative, we just changed the name to Arkansas Works instead. When people found out private option was Obamacare, it's like, okay, well, change the name, Arkansas Works. And I feel like that's, I don't know, it's just sad. The whole situation is very sad to me.
It is, because why would you want a program that has kept us 48 in overall health? That it's costing our state billions of dollars. The people on this, it was sold to tell us that people were not going to use the ER, and they were going to get their own personal physicians, and they're 5 times more likely to use the ER now. Premiums have more than doubled, and everybody in Arkansas that has had their premiums double or increase or changes in their coverage, it's because of this program. You can go back to this and understand that it is costing everybody to keep this population on free insurance.
Yeah.
And it's costing everybody in the state. You and I, we're paying for it.
Do you? We were just talking with your colleague, State Representative Dan Sullivan, And he was talking about how the DHS budget will come up at some point to this week in the fiscal session. So I'm just curious, do you have a feel for how the chamber's going to go on that? Do they have the votes in the House?
I think they have it in the House.
Okay.
I don't. But I'll tell you this: I think there are a lot that are saying, maybe. I'm not sure how I'm going to vote, and sometimes they're holding their vote to broker something on, like maybe the pharmacy issue.
Yeah.
That's true. I'm not sure that they're really staunchly against the DHS as much as they are just brokering a vote.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but I think they've got the votes in the House probably.
Okay. Well, we've seen all this before, and going back to 2013, you mentioned who knows what people were getting. I always go back to Richard Womack, who came out on record and said he was offered a bribe, and that's when he knew for sure he was voting against the program once he realized the lengths they were willing to go to try to get this. And it's a $2 billion windfall for Blue Cross Blue Shield, and that's a lot of money, and it's just the machine. Go ahead.
If you look at it, you can. There are the people that care about looking at this have determined that there is a 20% profit built in to the premiums that they are getting paid. So if we took that 20% out, we could easily pay for this program. I mean, that's 20% of our cost right there is going to Blue Cross Blue Shield. So it's easy to find the money. Those that really want to be transparent and do some research on this, it would be an easy vote for us all to say, yes, Senator King, this was a brilliant way to solve this problem. But because we lack leadership on this, we lack transparency, there's no appetite right now. Everybody just wants to shove it under the rug and hope, that it is going to correct itself, or, we're going to get out of this mess somehow. But I fear that it's going to be through taxes.
Yeah.
And the people of the state are not going to be happy with that when they understand it's because we would not listen to people like Senator King and make the changes that we needed to make.
You did come out on Facebook with very kind words about Senator Brian King deciding to seek re-election. Of course, going to be a primary. State Representative Bob Ballinger, he's running for that seat now. So why do you support Senator Brian King for re-election?
Senator King is a good legislator. He does what we are all sent down here to do, and that is to do our homework. It's not just to sit in that chamber and ask our neighbor, well, how are you going to vote on this? How are you going to vote on this? No. He gets in there and does his homework and figures out what needs to be done on an issue. He is successful down here. People are going to disparage him as being angry or a bully, but no, that's not it. He's frustrated because he knows the truth, and he cannot get leadership to listen or act on it. And he's, got courage, and very few legislators have the courage that he has to stand up and, bring truth to a hard issue. So I support him because I can trust him to do the right thing and not take a payoff, not broker his vote. And that's what I think the people of our district will want.
Well, State Representative Charlotte Douglas, it's always great to talk to you. I appreciate your stance on liberty and everything that you're doing down there, too, because you also do your homework. And best of luck to you in the fiscal session. Just let me know anything I can do to get the information out there to the people.
Thank you for what you're doing. You're a light in the darkness. You're a voice for the people, and thank you for what you're doing with your program.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Be safe.
Have a good day.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye.
Folks, we're going to take a break. Really always a pleasure to talk to Representative Charlotte Douglas. When we come back, it's the Dan Douglas Music Montage. If you've never heard of it, you got to stick around and listen. It's priceless.
Buy, sell, and trade at Triple R Pawn in Ash Flat. Firearms, computers, sporting goods, musical instruments, tools, jewelry, and everything else you can think of. It's all at Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat. Gun enthusiasts, log on now to triplrpawn.com and browse their amazing inventory. That's triplrpawn.com. You can also call them at 870-994-PAWN. That's 870-994-7296. Let the great team at Triple R Pawn help you find what you're looking for. That's Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat, triplrpawn.com, or call 870-994-PAWN.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
You wouldn't put a square peg in a round hole, so why would you deploy a traditional firewall in a modern decentralized network? Firewalls have new requirements for businesses leveraging SaaS-based applications and public cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. We're in the cloud generation now, so your firewalls have to be engineered to fit right in.
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Yeah, so I see a tweet. Senator Brian King just tweeted at the governor and said, protecting big insurance and big Medicaid who have pocketed hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars for ineligible enrollees. Special language is a rigged, stacked committee picked by the same leadership to protect big insurance and big Medicaid. And that's exactly what a lot of these committees end up doing. Folks, there was no greater, and speaking of primaries, Dan Douglas has a conservative primary challenger in Scott Richardson. I know. But there was no greater advocate for ACE's agenda of tax increases and bigger spending than State Representative Dan Douglas, a Republican who loved to talk and loved to push for the internet sales tax and the gas tax, among other things. And his name is State Representative Dan Douglas, and we put this little montage together because it actually happened. This is what he sounds like, and it was the perfect bookends to create what we created, the Dan Douglas music montage. You're welcome, Arkansas.
I bought a Led Zeppelin 4 album for the song Stairway to Heaven.
Stairway to Heaven. Do it.
Let me tell you about the internet tax. Let me just explain this to you, okay? I wear Wrangler blue jeans, all right? Why? Because they're cheap. I'm buying for $19.95 a pair. And they make my booty look better, or so I'm told. Main Street in Arkansas today is bleeding, and they are bleeding because they are at a disadvantage to the online retailers, and it will tell you how much money you have spent with VictoriaSecret.com or wherever you shop. In 1974, I bought a Doobie Brothers 8-track tape for the song Blackwater on it. Anybody remember that one? It was good.
Yeah, I don't remember it. I know the song now, but it wasn't around in 74. That was, I guess that got 10 years on me.
Who have chosen to do business in this state. Now people say, what are we going to do if this passes and we have all that money? That's for us to decide. But I ask you, what are we going to do if we do not pass it and we lose our brick and mortar stores, our stores that employ our citizens in our towns?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make just a couple of comments. One, Mr. Waters said that this is an unconstitutional bill, and it is. We can either fund the future of Arkansas, we can either take care of our Main Street businesses, or we can just say to hell with it.
In 1995, I bought a CD, a Shania Twain CD. It had a song on it I liked, and I wanted. Whose bed have your boots been under?
Whose bed have your boots been under?
Now, I was around for this one.
Yep. They're closing the limited, whatever they sell, I don't know. We see what the budget is. Everybody wants, or a lot of people want to cut taxes. Other people want to fund certain projects. We have to have money to do that.
More.
If you have special projects, if you want to fund pre-K, you have to vote for this bill.
Democrat.
If you want to fund highways, you can vote for this bill.
Demagogue.
We have to decide how to divvy it up. In total, this could amount to $150 million a year or more. That's my viewpoint on this. I don't consider it a new tax.
Tax increase. Yes, that's what it was. You're a Republican. What are you doing?
In 2011, I downloaded a Lady Gaga song, Born This Way. Any woman that wears a mate dress, I've just got a lot of respect for.
A mate dress. A mate dress.
And for the record, I always try to get a good-looking woman sitting beside me.
And after it passed out of the Transportation Committee overwhelmingly, I did what a lot of us do, especially when we get older. Representative Hendren, I went into the men's room, and as I was standing there staring at the wall, as we all do, I heard a voice beside me. It was a man that said, now listen to this. The man said, one thing you didn't mention.
And for the record, I always try to get a good-looking woman sitting beside me. Which school you want to close, which prison you want to shut down. Or are we going to draw lots to throw people out in nursing homes?
Wow.
How are we going to fund these issues? We all know that. We passed medical marijuana here. I didn't know we'd realized we'd started smoking it yet.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
All right, so that was the Dan Douglas music montage, and that kind of wraps up the show. We've got 30 seconds left. I appreciate you guys. Go to conduitnews.com if you want to get this broadcast or others like it, or facebook.com/conduitnews. Check out the comments, sound off on the program. Also, we do have a YouTube channel. Joe wants me to point out. You can go subscribe to it, which we're not even promoting, and our subscriptions are going up. Up, 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 up. Arkansas. Be safe.